Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video here on the Parker Love Sports YouTube channel. Thank you for taking a few minutes out of your day to spend them here on the channel. Now, first things first, I just want to ask that you leave a like and subscribe to the channel, as the support is greatly appreciated, as I'm trying to hopefully do this as a career one day. And by leaving a like and subscribing to the channel, that helps push the video out to many more people. And so if you could help me do that, that would mean the world to me. In today's video, we're going over my top 10 linebackers in the 2024 NFL Draft Class. This is the series where I'm doing daily uploads leading up to the NFL Draft. We are currently in my ranking section. We started with quarterbacks and we did running backs, receivers, interior offensive linemen, offensive tackles, tight ends, defensive linemen, edge rushers were yesterday. Today's linebackers. Tomorrow is going to be corners, and then on Saturday, that is going to be safeties. Then after that, we're doing my top 20 players in the class. Then we're finishing with a 7-round mock draft for the Broncos, and I got something planned for you Broncos fans out there. And then I'm doing a full first-round mock draft the day before the draft. And then the day of the draft, I'm adding something. The morning, I'm going to try and get something out bright and early, and it's going to be like 5 scenarios that I want to happen for the Broncos on draft day. But that's neither here nor there. In today's video, we're going over the top 10 linebackers in this year's class, according to me. Now, I do my own scouting, but I also reference some other people, so this isn't just my work, it's other people. And I want to be an independent scout one day, but I'm still learning and growing in that aspect. So, yeah, I just learn, watch videos, and try and absorb as much information as I can. Now, I also show stats because it's easy to show stats. It's very easy to show them graphically, but stats don't tell the whole story. And if you base your evaluations purely off of stats, then you shouldn't do that. It's bad. Stats can lie. Stats can deceive. So yeah, make sure you go in depth. They're just nice to show graphically. And now with that being said, before we do get started, as always, I just want to remind you that Jesus is King. And I pray that you give your life to him, as he has got a plan and a purpose for you. And I just truly hope that you accept Jesus with your whole heart and believe that he died on the cross for your sins. And if you truly believe that Jesus sacrificed himself on the cross and was resurrected from the dead 3 days later, then you'll go to heaven. It's that simple. It's that easy. It's not by how many times we go to church. It's not how many good works we do. It's not how many times we read our Bible. And yes, those things are good, and we should do those things and want to do those things when we've been born again. But the sole thing that saves us is our trust and our faith in Jesus because of his sacrifice on the cross. And so it's an important message to me as a Christian to try and share with as many people as possible. I know a lot of people aren't going to like it, but I don't care, because I want to share this message with as many people as possible and hopefully, plant a seed in someone's head about the potential idea. So it's important to me as a Christian, and I'm not going to stop. So yeah, it's an important message to me, and I'm going to continue to put it first in every single one of my videos. Now, with that being said, let's jump into my top 10 linebackers in this year's class. This year's class is interesting. I don't think there's that many great players. There's some good depth pieces and special teamers, but we're starting here at number 10 with Tyron Hopper out of Missouri. I just have a feeling he's going to go to the Chiefs because, what's his name? Nick Bolton was out of Missouri. He went to the Chiefs, obviously, both in Missouri, with Kansas City being on the border of Kansas and Missouri, obviously. But I don't know. I have a feeling he's going to go to the Chiefs with them losing Willie Gay. Could be wrong, and it could just be the stereotype of that they're both in Missouri. But as of right now, that's kind of my prediction for Tyron Hopper. But Hopper has good length, speed, and agility at 6'2", 231 pounds. He has 31 and 3/8 inch arms. He sometimes diagnoses a play incorrectly and missteps and is late to make a play. Now, Hopper struggles in coverage as an inside linebacker, but he has great range to him, as he can play sideline to sideline and stopping the run. But as a coverage linebacker, that is where he does struggle a little bit. Hopper is a violent tackler who uses his explosiveness to make a big hit, and he's not afraid to tackle. I know that's typically when you hear people say that players are afraid to tackle. Typically, that's the corner position. I feel like that it's said the most about. And it's not true for every corner, obviously. But yeah, Hopper isn't afraid to go and make a tackle and hit somebody. He will hit you. I don't think he's an instant starter in the NFL. I think he will be a backup guy. I don't think he's going to take over one of the starting inside linebacker spots. And this is talking about inside backers. I probably should have mentioned this at the beginning of the video, but if you're running a 4-3 defense, your inside linebackers are your middle linebacker, your Mike, and your Sam linebacker, which is on the strong and weak. Or Mike is the middle, and then you got your the weak side and the strong side backer. I can't remember the terminology right now. I know Will is the weak side. Mike is typically your middle linebacker. And then Sam, I think the Sam backer. Sam backer strong, Will is weak, and then you got your Mike linebacker in the middle. But that is for a 3-4. If you're running, that's for a 4-3. If you're running a 3-4, your inside linebackers are just going to be your left inside linebacker and your right inside linebacker. So there's no middle linebacker, essentially. It's just two inside backers. But yeah, he's not an instant starter, and he will be a special teamer in the NFL. And so he is a solid blitzer and a run defender, but he does need to develop in coverage to be that complete guy at the linebacker position. Now, in 44 games, Hopper had 133 solo tackles, 76 assist tackles, 209 total tackles. He had 29 tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks, and 1 interception during his career with the Missouri Tigers. Next up, my number 9 linebacker is going to be Curtis Jacobs, linebacker out of Penn State. Now, Jacobs possesses solid strength and size at the linebacker position. He's 6'1", 241 pounds, and he ran a 4.58 40-yard dash. Now, he doesn't have great range as a tackler and can be a bit slow at reading and then reacting to the offensive plays. But he's a very explosive linebacker, but with that explosiveness doesn't come great speed. He ran a 4.58 40-yard dash, which is solid. It's decent, but it's not that great. It's not that top end tier speed. It's decent, but like I mentioned, he lacks elite speed. He's got good speed, but not elite speed running a 4.58 40. But, honestly, thinking about it, 4.58 is pretty fast for a linebacker. And I think the play speed, he might play a little bit slower because testing speed and game speed are not the same. Of course, you're going to add on the helmet, the shoulder pads, everything. So you're most likely going to be playing slower than your 40 time. But he did run a 4.58 40, which is really solid for a linebacker. Once again, I don't think it is elite. There is a linebacker in this class with elite speed, but it is good speed. Now, Jacobs is a decent coverage linebacker, but I wouldn't say he's great. Again, I think he's kind of in that good range in terms of his coverage, but he is great at stopping the run. That is kind of his bread and butter, stopping the run. He uses his hands to work in between blockers and then he makes the tackle. During his career with the Penn State Nittany Lions, he played in 42 games with 105 solo tackles, 66 assist tackles, 171 total tackles. He had 24 tackles for loss, 9.5 sacks, and 2 interceptions in his career. Moving on to the number 8 linebacker, this is going to be Jaylan Ford, the linebacker out of Texas. Yeah, Texas was obviously a good team last year. That's why they were in the college football playoff, but yeah, Jaylan Ford is one of the top linebackers. You can probably honestly find him. You'll probably find him on day 3, as you will a majority of the inside linebackers, in my opinion. I think this is a fairly weak inside linebacker class, but Ford possesses good size, speed, and athleticism as kind of the whole combination and package. He's 6'2", 240 pounds. He does lack some speed though. But he plays with good instincts by reading and then reacting to the play, and then obviously he's going to go and make a play himself. He's a willing tackler who isn't afraid to jump in front of a running back to bring him down, because them running backs some of them are speedsters, so you can just jump in front and take them down. Some of them are power backs, though, who are going to run through you. Ford is not scared to jump in front of them and bring them down. He has great pursuit of the ball carrier, whether that's going to be a running back, obviously running with the football, or if he's blitzing and that's a quarterback extending, buying time, or rolling out. He has great pursuit at getting to the ball carrier and bringing them down. He plays with a solid pad level, plays with that low pad level and technique, which gives him leverage against blockers. He's solid in both defending the run and dropping back into pass coverage. I won't say he's the greatest in pass coverage, but he can hold his own. And then once again, one of these guys, he is not an instant starter. I think he'll be a solid special teamer right away. But a lot of these linebackers, I don't think will provide or be provided as an instant starter. These are going to be depth guys who you want sitting and learning for a year or two, playing some special teams, maybe getting some rotational snaps, but they won't be an every down instant starter type of guys unless we get to the top few guys on the list. Then I think they can be that instant starter at the inside linebacker position. Now, Ford played in 42 games with 142 total tackles, 145 assist tackles, 287 total tackles. You can see how productive he was in college. He had 27.5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, and 6 interceptions in his career. Now, my number 7 linebacker is going to be Tommy Eichenberg, someone who kind of fell for me. I believe was up maybe as my number 4, number 5 running back, but started to fall. Obviously he fell, but not too far. I still think he is a solid linebacker. He throws his body into traffic to plug gaps and stop runners. He hits and fully wraps up the running back to finish his tackles, and he doesn't let many players get away when they are wrapped up. Probably one of the better I'm not going to say probably. I need to stop saying these things. I have a bunch of tendencies on how I talk that I'm trying to get rid of. He is a top end tackler in this class, a solid special teamer, and he also has got solid height and size to him at 6'2", 233 pounds. He's a decent coverage linebacker, but he's not a great coverage linebacker, so there is some area to improve in the coverage skills in the NFL. And then once again, I think he'll be a solid special teamer. Don't think he'll be an instant starter, but I think he can be a rotational guy in the NFL right away anyway. He could obviously work his way into being a starter, but right away I think he'll be a rotational guy, not an instant starter, maybe playing mostly special teams. But in 37 games with the Ohio State Buckeyes, he played in 37 games with 151 solo tackles, 117 assist tackles. He had 268 total tackles, 21 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, and 2 interceptions. Now moving on to my number 6 linebacker, that is going to be Trevin Wallace out of Kentucky. Now Wallace has a solid height, weight, and speed combination to him. He's about 6. I need to stop saying about. He is 6'1", 237 pounds, and he ran a 4.51 40-yard dash. Now Wallace struggles to read and identify plays by getting fooled on some play action plays. He can get fooled on some run plays and some pass plays as well, but to me, I think it was mostly play action plays that he got fooled on. But he is a willing tackler who will stop the run and isn't afraid to hit the running back either. He's an explosive athlete who will play with sideline to sideline range. He can get to both sidelines and he can make a play. He is a rangy player, but he does need to improve in his coverage and the coverage aspect of his game, as he can get baited out of his coverage responsibilities. And I think he'll be a solid special teamer as he develops. And I know I'm saying that for a lot of these guys, but it's true. A lot of these linebackers are going to be playing on special teams, and they're not going to be instant starters. They're not going to get a whole lot of playing time early. Obviously could, but for the most part, they're not going to be getting a lot of playing time, and so they're going to have an impact as a special teamer. And being a linebacker, you're expected to make a lot of tackles, and so that's kind of, well, I guess you can play on kick return and punt return, but mostly on kickoffs and punts, you're obviously going to be expected to go down, wrap up, and hit and tackle and bring them to the ground. And That's what you do as a linebacker. So it is good experience for them as well to play special teams. Now for Wallace, he played in 35 games with the Kentucky Wildcats. He had 93 solo tackles, 73 assist tackles, 166 total tackles. He had 18 tackles for loss, 10 sacks, and 3 interceptions in his college career. Now moving on to my number 5 linebacker, this is going to be Cedric Gray out of North Carolina. Now Gray is a very fast and lengthy linebacker who had a ton of production at North Carolina. Now Gray is 6 foot 1.5 inches. He's 234 pounds. He has 32.5 inch arms, and he ran a 4.64 40-yard dash, which is decent, but not great at the position, like I mentioned earlier. He's an aggressive tackler who struggles a little bit with defending the run, but he is a solid pass rusher who has excellent pursuit and closing speed of going after the running back or pursuing after the quarterback, extending the play. He does have that pursuit and closing speed to get to them. He also is a solid he's a solid coverage linebacker in both man and zone coverages, but he does lack some physicality and play strength. Does need to bring that up at the next level in the NFL. Now, Gray played in 42 games with the North Carolina Tar Heels. He had 198 solo tackles, 170 assist tackles. He had 368 total tackles, 29 tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks, and 5 interceptions in his college career. Now, I do think Gray can be one of those guys who, I don't know if instant starter is the correct term, but one of those guys who maybe can be a rotational guy, get some snaps, maybe gets 50-50 snaps with another linebacker. But I do think this is where we're getting to the guys who can almost be a starter in the NFL level. And moving on to my number 4 guy, that is going to be, my number 4 guy is going to be Junior Colson out of Michigan. Now, Colson is a great combination of size and strength at 6'2", 238 pounds, and he also plays with a lot of speed and explosiveness. Now, Colson patrols the second level of the defense and makes plays in both the run and pass game. And of course, the second level, we talked about it kind of when we were going over offensive linemen. The first layer is a lineman, where the offensive lineman will make the block on the defensive line. And then in the run game, they'll work up to the second level, which is where the linebackers, the corners, sometimes the safeties in the box are. So that is the second level, and he's going to kind of patrol the area, and he is going to make a play essentially in the center of the field. And both the run and pass game. If it's going to be a drop the middle, he's gonna be able to take it out. And if there's a slant route or any passing routes coming through the center, he'll be able to deal with it as well. Now, Colson is able to release from his blocker and take down the running back in the running game. Again, if he's locked on with his defender, he can shove him off, or he can disengage from his blocker and take down the running back. He is one of the most sure tacklers in this draft class, bringing down anyone he gets his hand on. If he touches you with his hand, he is going to wrap you up and take you to the ground. He is a sure tackler. He is not going to give up, and he is not going to let players break many tackles on him. He's also got great range. Being able to play sideline to sideline. He's a 3-down linebacker who can stop the run, play in both man and zone coverage. He's kind of a do-it-all linebacker. Maybe not so much of a blitzer necessarily. He can do that, but wasn't used a whole lot that way in Michigan. I would say his strength is stopping the run and defending the pass. Mostly stopping the run, but does have some upside in the pass game. In 43 games with the Wolverines, he played in 43 games, obviously. He had 114 solo tackles with 142 assist tackles, 256 total. He had 256 total tackles, 8.5 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks, and 0 interceptions in his career. Now, next up, we're moving on to my number 3 linebacker, which is going to be Peyton Wilson out of North Carolina State. Now, Wilson could easily be the top linebacker in this year's class, but there is a ton of injury history going back all the way to high school surrounding him, so that can be a concern, and that might cause him to drop during the NFL draft. I think he's a day two prospect. Oh, obviously, I think he's a day two prospect, but I was going to say I think he's a second round prospect who might fall into the third round because of that injury history. He's a very athletic and lengthy linebacker at 6'4", 233 pounds. He has 30.5-inch arms, and he ran a 4.43 40-yard dash, which is tremendous. That is what wide receivers run, and he ran that as a linebacker, as an inside backer. He also has a 34.5-inch vertical and a 9'11" broad jump, which is absolutely terrific, and that should show you his athleticism right there during the combine. He has the speed and burst to quickly go downhill and make tackles in the run game. He can play in both man and zone coverage, and he can also be a decent blitzer as well. I don't think he's the greatest blitzer, but I think he can be solid. But I think he is better in obviously defending the run and also defending the pass. And I feel like that's the case for most inside backers. But honestly, kind of thinking about it, I think he's also a decent blitzer as well. I don't think he's obviously the greatest in this class, but I think he is a decent blitzer as well. He plays with great range, being able to play sideline to sideline. He's got a high football IQ. He can read and diagnose the offensive play before making a tackle, jumping a receiver, making a play essentially, bringing the running back down, intercepting a pass, picking off the ball. Whatever it is, he's going to be able to read and react to it because he has that high football IQ to identify the offensive play and what the offense is running. During his career with the North Carolina State Wolfpack, he played in 47 games. He had 202 tackles, 202 solo tackles, 200 assist tackles, 402 total tackles. He had 48 tackles for loss, 15 sacks, and 7 interceptions. Now moving on to my number 2 linebacker in this year's class, it is going to be Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Now, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is the son of former NFL linebacker Jeremiah Trotter Sr. He played with the Philadelphia Eagles, the Washington Redskins at the time, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, Trotter has a high football IQ who is easily able to read and identify the play, and then after he identifies a play, he's able to go and make a play either in the run game or the pass game. Maybe can be a little bit slow at reading and then making that first step to go and make a play, but he is a very solid linebacker. I might be a little bit higher on him in the class, but that high football IQ makes him a force as a inside linebacker. Now, Trotter excels in all 3 areas in terms of being a linebacker. He excels in pass coverage in both man and zone, but sometimes in zone he can get a little bit lost, so he does need to work and improve in his zone coverage ability. But he also excels in run defense, in defending the run, obviously, and he's also a decent blitzer when he is utilized as one. Now, he's got great footwork, and he fully wraps up the running back most of the time, but it can be a quarterback, it can be a receiver. He's going to fully wrap them up and bring them to the ground. He is a sure tackler, one of the best tacklers in the class. When he gets his hands on you, he's going to wrap up and he's going to bring you to the ground. Now, in 37 games with the Clemson Tiger, Trotter had 111 solo tackles, 94 assist tackles, 205 total tackles, 30.5 tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks, and 2 interceptions. Now moving on to my number 1 inside backer in this year's class, it is going to be none other than Edgerrin Cooper, linebacker out of Texas A&M. Now Cooper has a size, speed, and athleticism combination who had a lot of production at Texas A&M, but he also provides elite speed and physicality. He's 6'2", 230 pounds. He has 34-inch arms. He ran a 4.51 40-yard dash, which is pretty solid for the inside linebacker position. I'd even say great. I'd say it's some of the top speed at the position. Of course, Peyton Wilson ran a faster 40 time, but he also has a 34.5-inch vertical and a 9-foot 10-inch broad jump, and that just shows you his athleticism right there. Maybe not as athletic as Peyton Wilson, but still super, super athletic. Now, Cooper is great at avoiding blockers and shedding them to make the play in both the run and the pass game, whether that be, shedding his guy and making the tackle in the run game. Obviously, that's not going to happen in the pass game, so it's going to be mostly on blitzing and pass rushing attempts, how he beats his blocker. Now, he easily identifies the play and who's getting the ball, and he goes and makes a play, and he's really good at doing that on screen plays. I don't know if that made sense. I'm getting really tired, but essentially he easily identifies the offensive plays and who's getting the ball, and then he's going to go to them and he's going to make a play by tackling them, sacking them, bringing them down in the backfield. But he especially excels at sniffing out essentially screen plays and going to make the play against a screen. He can be utilized. He's got the athleticism to be used as a quarterback spy if needed. I think him and Peyton Wilson both can do that. And he's also a good blitzer, run stopper, and coverage guy in both man and zone coverage. Now, during his career with the Texas A&M Aggies, he played in 38 games with 58 solo tackles, 62 assist tackles, 120 total tackles. He had 32.5 tackles for loss and 22.5 sacks, as well as he had 2 interceptions. But that is my top 10 linebackers for the 2024 NFL Draft. This one kind of felt a little bit weird and a little bit off because I felt a little rushed in making this for the daily uploads, because today I went to the Avalanche's final home regular season game, and so I worked on it a little bit before I went, but then I was gone for a while, got home pretty late, and had to wrap this up, finish it, record it. Now I have to go and edit it, make the thumbnail, upload it, do everything that occurs with the upload process. So this one kind of feels like it was a little bit sped up and a little bit rushed. And if so, I am sorry about that, but I'm trying to describe these players as best as I can. But the main purpose of these videos to me is to get my rankings out to you, so you guys know my personal player rankings. I'm sure you guys already know who these players are and what they bring to the table. But this is just my rankings and who I have placed where, because I know some people are curious. So that's the main goal of these videos. But also, if people don't know who these players are, it's going to be able to help them identify who these players are as well. So that is a goal. But yeah, the main goal of this is my rankings. But thank you all so much for watching. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel down below if you haven't done so already. Thank you all so much for watching. My name is Parker, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace out.